Hi everyone, this is Kyle, and I just saw Godzilla Minus One in theaters, and so this is going to be my first movie review on here. Now I'll start off by saying that I have been wanting to do some movie reviews on this channel on YouTube, but at the same time I also need to say that I am very picky when it comes to what movies I decide to go see. I mean, a lot of the problems that you're seeing with stuff coming out today is, I don't know, you could say it's gone woke, you could say it's been current date, you could say that a lot of entertainment, it's having messages being put in there, things like that. You have a lot of beloved properties out there that are just being vandalized, so I do have to say I'm pretty picky when it comes to what I decide to pay and see. I am of the opinion that if I see that a certain movie is putting messages in there, if they're putting current day stuff into there, I do not want to give them my money. So I mean, while I do plan on giving some more reviews on here, I'm not going to be reviewing absolutely everything. I will admit I'm pretty picky when it comes to what I decide to go pay and see in theaters. I should also say, since this is my first movie review, I'm not sure exactly how I should film this yet. I don't know if maybe I should be filming myself talking to you or any other sort of thing like that. So for right now, all you get is you get this internet page of Godzilla Minus One on RottenTomatoes.com. Yeah, that's what you're gonna get until I perfect the art of filming a movie review on YouTube.com. And then lastly, I guess there are certain rules when it comes to movie reviews that you can't spoil the movie, as they put it, or you can't say what happens, or, well, I guess you could, but if you do, you have to warn people ahead of time. I mean, I would say I'm probably not going to give away exactly everything that happens in there, but maybe I'll be saying some stuff. Okay, so I'm going to start my review now. Well, if you want my quick answer as to whether this is a good movie or not, yes, this is a very good movie, and I absolutely would recommend that you go see it. The characters in this movie are very good. I think the movie did a great job of drawing you in, making you root for these people, or making you care about these characters. I think the movie did a pretty good job of making the main characters in this movie likable. Visually speaking, the movie looks pretty good. I mean, there might be a few little instances where you can tell it's only got a $15 million budget, but you can also tell that it's not filmed on green screens or anything like that, like what a lot of movies today are being filmed on here in the United States where I am. A lot of Marvel movies, comic book movies, things like that, they use a lot of green screens. This movie, you could tell it was filming entirely or almost entirely on sets, and yeah, I mean, everything for the most part, it looked real. I'll go in a little bit into the plot and the setting a little bit. I mean, the movie takes place in Japan right as World War II ends. The main character is a guy who was a kamikaze pilot. He didn't really want to go on to a mission where his job was to die. At the beginning, he goes to an island where there was a little garrison of soldiers there. And that's when you first see Godzilla. I mean, Godzilla, he's much smaller at the time. And he wipes out all the people there except for him and one technician. And then he goes back home. And his home has basically been wrecked. And when they show the destruction of his home, I mean, this is another instance where you see that it's definitely a small budget movie. One thing I noticed is when they were showing the destruction when he first returns home, you know, it's an actual set. You don't see that far into the distance. And the one thought I had was, if this was like a Hollywood movie, you'd probably see a giant CGI shot of just widespread destruction. Whereas in this movie here, it's kind of just a small set where you can't really see much farther than what's right in front of you. But it all looks real. Again, if Hollywood were filming this, if they were filming this guy returning to his home and his whole home was destroyed, you'd probably see some kind of gigantic shot of just widespread CGI destruction, whereas this movie, everything looks real. And me, I definitely like that about this movie. There might be a little bit of CGI and stuff like that at some point in this movie, but if there is, it's minimal. Now, talking a little more about the fact that this film had a small budget, Godzilla, he looked really good in this movie. I mean, there are some instances where you can tell that a certain creature is clearly being computerized. Godzilla did not look that way at all. There were some instances, in fact, where it looked like they may have been using a puppet, at least when Godzilla's walking on land, walking through a city. He did look a little bit stiff when he was walking at times. Now me, I don't know if they were CGIing Godzilla or if they were using a puppet or if maybe they were using a combination of both. I mean, when he used the atomic breath, I'm thinking they had to have used some level of computerization there. But whenever I saw him walking, there was something about it that looked just a little bit off. He looked a little bit stiff. But I mean, that's the only little nitpick I can think of. I mean, Godzilla, though, they made Godzilla look really good in this movie. I mean, if he was computerized, he did not look like he was at all, as far as I saw. Among any other little observations I can think of off the top of my head, I'll go back to the main character who was a kamikaze pilot, but he, I guess, failed in his mission. He came back to his home. He's immediately greeted by this one woman who gets real mad at him for failing in his mission, for coming back alive. There were also some other people who were shaming this guy right here for not doing his job as a kamikaze pilot. And so this guy, yeah, he kind of feels like a failure. He feels like he shouldn't be alive. There was also a moment early in the movie when he was on the island and Godzilla first appeared, and he went to his plane and he was supposed to shoot at the monster, and he kind of just froze and he couldn't do it. He was too scared. So that has an impact on him as the movie goes on. But going back to the part of him kind of being shamed because he's a kamikaze pilot and he should have died, and he's kind of being shamed for coming back alive. So when he gets back home, he finds this one random woman, and she's holding a baby, and then they all kind of end up living together. Now, he was not the father of that baby, and it turned out the woman was not the mother of that baby either. She just found the baby, I think. And then they kind of end up being the baby's parents. I think her name was Akiko, something like that. Yeah, I kind of forget a lot of the characters' names off the top of my head. You know, and then they and everyone else, they're working on rebuilding after a bunch of air raids from the war. So this guy, he ends up finding a job, one that was going to pay pretty well. It's a government job where he was going to be sailing out, and he's going to be looking for mines that are in the water offshore and getting rid of them by detonating them. And when he first tells her about this job, he tells her that there's going to be some risk to it. And then she ends up kind of getting scared a little bit that he might die. And one thing that the woman says, the mother, well, not the mother, the foster mother, but the one thing she tells him is, "I forbid you to die." And this comes right after this guy, as a kamikaze pilot, was being shamed for failing in his mission, where he's supposed to die in war, and he's being shamed for coming back home alive. And then suddenly you have this woman saying, "I forbid you to die," which, came in pretty stark contrast. And it's just one little observation I noticed when it came to characters and character development, that sort of thing, in this movie. I mean, the fact that this kamikaze pilot, he's being shamed for coming back home where he was supposed to die. I mean, you could argue that people are basically viewing him as disposable or expendable. Maybe they're not quite seeing him as human at that point, if his job is to die. And then suddenly this one woman comes along and you get the exact opposite reaction, or the exact opposite treatment from her. Anything else I can think of? The boat crew, it was a good group of characters, I thought. I mean, one guy, he had glasses, he had longer hair. Yeah, I don't know if I'd call him the scientist or something like that. He was a smarter guy. And there was one character who had never been in war before. He was a bit younger. And then there was another guy there who, at least early on in the movie, he was kind of talking about how I guess he didn't quite like the government. He thought the government was inept and stuff like that. I guess he might have been a little bit of a funnier character. But that one guy who I guess kind of hated the government, so to speak, he was probably my favorite character out of everybody. I think I might say I liked him the most. But the main character, the kamikaze pilot, I mean, he was real well developed. He had a real good character arc throughout the movie. Feels ashamed that he came back alive. Feels ashamed that he's still alive after the war. Feels like he should be dead. And when they come up with a plan to kill Godzilla, this guy decides he wants to get a fighter plane, and he wants to do a kamikaze mission, and he wants to actually complete it this time. But then he needs help, and he has to find this one technician that was with him on the island when Godzilla wiped the whole garrison out. And this technician was mad at him, thinking it was his fault that the whole garrison on the island died. But that technician, he still comes back and helps with the plane. And while this one guy, the main character, he did intend to die when trying to kill Godzilla, the technician went over some of the work he did on the plane that morning before the mission, and last thing he told him was there's a lever to eject the seat where he can get out of the plane before it crashes, so that way he doesn't have to die. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good character development, a lot of good character arcs in this story. I mean, I'm just giving you some initial thoughts that I have off the top of my head. The way the movie ended, it makes it look like there might be a sequel to this. I don't know. We'll see. If there is, I'll definitely be interested in seeing it. In a day and age where Hollywood is putting messages into their stories, into their movies, putting current day stuff into everything, I'm glad to tell you that this movie does not put any kind of current day messages or anything like that in there. It's just a movie. Godzilla looked great in this movie. The people working on it, they did a great job with a small budget. They did a great job of making you pull for the characters in this movie. They did a great job developing and giving these characters good arcs. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely recommend this movie. This is a real good movie. Yeah, that'll probably about sum up my initial thoughts on this movie. I mean, I just saw this movie a good hour or two ago. Last thing I'd say to all you is, yeah, absolutely go see this movie. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you could consider hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care until then.